Just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton.
You are listening to
Fire emergency.
Please don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry, I killed that
straight
girl.
from Buenos Aires Media Studios in New York. This is the Grim Fix Podcast. I am your host, David. I am here with Charles and JR.
What's up, everyone?
Yay.
And this is the Grim Fix Podcast. Thank you for all of those who are here again with us to listen to our beautiful voices, to look at our
Sexy.
beautiful faces. If you're watching on YouTube, if you are listening to us on podcasts, I ask that you follow, subscribe to the podcast, share with your friends, share with your family. If you're watching us on YouTube, I ask that you subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, share with your friends and family, and leave us a comment. But above all, share. You can find us also on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok as the Grim Fix Podcast. And yeah, if you have a story, interesting story, and you want to be one of our episodes, we invite you to send us your story at the Grim Fix Podcast at gmail.com. So with that said, let's start the show. Cue the French fries.
Cue the French fries.
All
Even if
right.
it's a Fuego story.
So today, yes, we got some Fuego stories.
Fuego story. That sounds like a Pitbull song.
We're going to be talking about some extraordinary fires. Some of the greatest, well, not great in the sense that they're great, but I mean great as in they're big.
Yeah.
Big. If it was Trump, he'd be like, big fires, huge fires.
Massive. Immense.
Yeah. So, production team has chosen this topic for this week. So,
Production team.
yeah, man, production team. Choose the topics, and this
I feel like I'm on Oprah and stuff. Makes me feel like on Oprah.
So,
Star Jones.
let's jump into these fires. So we're gonna use one of the main artists. Sorry, I am a little under the weather still, but we're getting there. One of the main articles we will be using is from history.com. You can check in the show notes or in the YouTube video description, and we will have the link there to the article. So if you decide you want to read more in depth, there are more stories than the ones we're going to read. So we just chose a few of these and we will be discussing them. So let's jump right in. The first one you wanted to talk about was in London.
Yes. London.
All right. So shoot.
I was about to say, good day, mate. And that's Australia.
Single babies.
Yeah, baby.
All right. So let's go. Even though, wait, so it says here, if I'm reading correctly, it says the Great Fire of London, right?
Right.
Okay, but it starts off with the California wildfire 2020. Okay. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but go ahead. You want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Shoot.
See the caption from under the picture. It says the Great Fire of London of 1666. That's some funky ass year.
To have a big ass fire.
A big ass. No. You'll see later on how unlucky these firemen are. It says St. Paul's Cathedral is shown engulfed in flames in the vicinity of Tower Wharf. That sounds something like from
Potter.
Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings and whatnot.
Bob's Burgers.
Wharf Burger.
Bob's Burgers, yeah.
Okay. The California wildfires of 2020 are the first conglomeration to strike during pandemic. The Great Fire of London raced through the city during the Black Plague and destroyed over 13,000 homes, leaving 100,000 people homeless.
Wow.
That's a whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
From
It's a whole
September,
town right there.
yeah, well, yeah. It says from September 2 through September 6, 1666. Look at that. 6,
The
6,
irony.
and 6, 6.
The irony.
The fire gutted the majority of the medieval city and damaged iconic buildings like St. Paul's Cathedral. People fled with as many belongings as they could carry, including diarist Samuel Pepys. I think that's the way it's said.
Yeah, Pepe.
Who escaped at 4 a.m. in his nightgown. Wow. In his nightgown in a cart, riding Lord to see how streets and the highways are crowded with people running and riding and getting off carts at any rate to fetch away things. Rebuilding took over 30 years, but the city planning of Sir Christopher Wren can still be today in the city's stone building and wider streets, which replaced the narrow alleys and wooden structures the fire had claimed. The London fire had also gave birth to two new industries, modern the property insurance and fire brigades. See, these are short,
Yeah.
you know. But over here, I got more information. It says the fire started in a bakery belonging to the king's baker, Thomas Fariner. It is believed he put out the spark from his oven hit fuel in his kitchen. Unfortunately, by the early hours at the morning, his house was ablaze and the fire began to spread. So it was just this careless baker from the royalty.
And to be responsible of that shit.
Word. 13,000 homes, man.
Homes, yeah. Even though only 6 people died, officially recorded, only 6 people died. But 85% of London's population were homeless.
Wow, man.
Well, he was fired. He was fired.
Nothing. Yep. Fired ain't nothing, man. They should have shot him. They should have they should have like how you call it, the firing squad.
Yeah.
Fired.
He should have been fired that way.
Fired, get it? Fired.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was but so it started in the baker's house.
Right.
But he tried to put it out.
Supposedly.
So
But even though over here it says he escaped that. No, that was somebody else. Samuel Pepys. Right. It says here he escaped at 4 a.m. But he was the one who tried to help. He was a diarist for the Royal Navy. Pepys spoke to the admiral of the Navy and agreed that they should blow up houses in the path of the fire in hopes to create space to stop the fire from spreading. So not only the fire caused people to be homeless, but Samuel Pepys too.
Well, I mean, but I guess
just blew up shit.
He's thinking of the greater good, I guess.
True.
Like if we eliminate houses, obviously you're gonna evacuate these people. If we blow up the houses, they'll have more space to fight the fire. I mean, his heart was in the right place. It's just kind of drastic, man. You start blowing up houses. I mean, this was 1666, so I mean,
that's the hell year. That's the hell year.
The 6.
That's just like.
I'm just like shocked at like 13,000 homes.
Yeah, 13,000.
You know.
No. For their bad luck, it was also the time where they had the Black Plague going around.
Yeah,
it feels like COVID.
Like a COVID type thing, right?
Yeah, well, I have here, okay, I wrote it down. It says, the Black Plague, also known as the Black Death. The Black Death was a devastating global epidemic of bubonic plague that struck Europe and Asia in the mid-1300s.
Yeah.
So, it arrived on October 1347 in Europe.
The original COVID.
Yep. But does it say what did it do? Like diarrhea or vomit or Like, is it a
No, I
respiratory
didn't go
thing?
in further because since I didn't like go into more details of the plague, but anything that says
Okay.
bubonic, anything that says bubonic,
Word.
I
yeah,
I
sounds
just think
horrible.
stinky. Yeah, it smells horrible.
It's gotta be really freaking hot. Well, yeah, it's gotta be worse. Well, it's called Black Death, so it's worse than COVID.
They arrived on the 27 when 12 ships from the Black Sea docked in Sicilian port of Messina. People gathered on the docks, were met with a horrifying surprise. Most sailors aboard the ships were dead, and those still alive were gravely ill and covered in black boils that oozed blood and pus. Sicilian authorities
So we
hastily ordered
had
the fleet of death ships out of the harbor, but it was too late. Over the next 5 years, the Black Death would kill more than 20 million people in Europe, almost 1/3 of the continent's population.
So it's like a pox.
sort
Yeah,
of,
right. That's what it sounds like.
but then all that came to my head was Walking Carrie.
Walking what?
Carrie, the original
Carrie?
Carrie, Sissy Spacek.
Oh, I thought you said
Oh,
walking carrot.
No,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So like thinking like
Carrie, like the movie Carrie, Sissy Spacek. When she was walking at the end, she was all bloodied up. So I'm guessing it was just like these boils would pop and.
I
ew.
thought he said walking carrot as well. I was like,
Yeah,
what?
walking carrot. I'm like, I'm missing. What is he referring to?
No.
Yeah, man. But the
Walking
black plague,
carrot.
damn, man. But that shit is. Oof. I mean,
Sounds painful.
that's down on your luck,
Yeah.
man. That's really down on your luck.
it's like
You
And
got a
then-
black plague, losing
and
your
then-
home, a freaking
yeah.
fire.
Freaking fire.
I mean, I had chicken pox and that shit sucked. Imagine that shit. Charles, did you get
Yeah.
chicken pox?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. I got them when I
It's
was a kid.
gross.
I feel like people don't get them no more because now they have the vaccine. But
Gross.
back then you had to suck that shit
Yeah,
up.
these
man.
Yeah.
Gen
Calamine
Zers, I guess
lotion.
they don't know what it is.
The what?
These
Calamine
Gen
lotion.
Zers, I don't think they know what it is.
No, they don't because
Because
David
since
never.
they
I
get
mean,
the,
thank God.
the vaccine, they're not gonna get hit with it.
Yeah, David never got it. I mean, thank God.
Man, I
but-
would,
And it's
I
worse
wouldn't
when you're older.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now they got the vaccine, so I don't think you're supposed to get it. But
Well, I heard that affects your penis.
does
It
it?
hurts. It affects
You-
everything, man.
You can get it on your penis.
You could get it on your penis. You could get it on your bunghole.
Yep.
You know that after you get chicken pox, like our generation still runs the risk of getting shingles.
Yeah, the jingles.
The shingles you get, I think, for those who had chicken pox,
Uh-huh.
I think as they get older, they have the risk of getting shingles. I think.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah,
doctor.
no, you're right. I've heard the same thing.
Mm,
But
Jingles.
all right, so
Oh,
let's
that-
go
that-
into
that's
New
skin
York.
things get
New
me.
York, big city of dreams.
New York. Great
Yeah,
Fire
the
of New York.
All right, so the Great Fire of New York. The picture here says New York buildings from the View Exchange Place in ruins after a fire destroyed much of the Lower East Side in 1835. The Great Fire of 1835 occurred in the midst of the cholera epidemic. Hey, you guys are seeing a pattern here. Every time there's like an
Yeah.
epidemic of something's a fire.
Yeah. Didn't
And if you
that,
notice,
It's
and if
like
you
there's
notice,
things
in the beginning, when I
intertwined.
started
COVID.
reading, it said the California wildfires of 2020.
it happened
during
on
COVID.
Yep.
Mm.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's
Conspiracy.
yes, it's the
Somebody
government.
started the fire.
Tinfoil hat moment.
Yep, tinfoil hat moment. Yep.
It's the
All right, so
government.
it says during the cholera epidemic in New York City, on the bitterly cold night of December 16, 1835, a downtown warehouse caught on fire. Strong winds fanned the flames, leveling over 17 city blocks and setting part of the frozen East River on fire as turpentine leaked from storehouses onto the water. The city's water supply was woefully inadequate for slowing the destruction. New York City's population had grown 16% in the past decade thanks to the robust trade along the Erie Canal, and access to proper sanitation and clean water was lacking. From the ashes rode innovation. The building of Croton Aqueduct in May 1837. It brought in 12 million gallons a day, which gave firemen that they needed to fight flames and delivered a pure source to homeowners and businesses. Something desperately required a city battling persistent pandemic, says Dan Levy, author of the forthcoming Manhattan Phoenix. It revolutionized American water systems and became a training ground for a whole generation of American engineers who would go on to create the nation's aqueducts, railroads, and canals. The end.
Yo, they'll say the strong winds flame, right? Leveling 17.
17 blocks,
East River
dude.
was frozen yet on fire.
Yeah, that's insane. It's just, damn, 17 blocks, though. I mean, think about it.
17 blocks.
That's in the Lower East Side. So the Lower East Side is part of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And blocks in Manhattan are...
Aquí dice, I got the... It began in a 5-story warehouse at 25th and Merchant Street, now known as Beaver Street, at the intersection of Hanover. A burst of gas pipe ignited by a cold store broke out in Lower Manhattan and burned for hours.
But think about it, 17 blocks.
Yeah.
Not 17 buildings.
No.
17 blocks in Manhattan.
17 blocks, like give and take about how many buildings are there?
Well, it depends
depending
how
on
big
the size,
blocks.
obviously.
Yeah, let's say a block could have, let's say 3 to 4, let's say 4 buildings on each side.
That's 16.
So that's 16. Yeah. And this is just using ballpark numbers. It could have more.
Could have more, could have less.
16, and then you multiply that by 17. And I can't let the numbers go, so I gotta figure out how much is 16.
I could tell you without looking for it.
17. 272 buildings.
Oh, you're way off.
Wow.
Because I was reading up a little bit further, and I was actually looking for how many people died. If that was such a huge, a huge thing going on, I was looking for how many people, died.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm happy for it, but it says 2 died amongst the slew of people ranging from the firefighters to observers and looters present at the fire. So that means there was a bunch of a-holes trying to steal shit.
Yeah. Yep.
If it would be in these times, you see everybody there with a freaking phone just filming it.
Yeah.
Recording it. And
only 2 people died?
2 people. Well, 2 people recorded. Like that.
Yeah, that they know of.
Legit, exactly.
They know of.
And it says in which it burned upwards up to 15 hours, causing 600 buildings to be destroyed, compromising the most valuable district of the city, including the entire exchange, the post office, and an immense number of stores. So yeah.
I mean, so think about it: 600 buildings. 600 buildings with a minimum. Obviously, you have more. But ballpark it on the low end, 600 buildings, you put at least 10 families per building, which you have more, but 10 families per building. That's 6,000 families. Let's say families composed of, let's say 3, or let's put 4. So that's 24,000 people were affected. And that's on the low end. So I'm assuming it's way more than that. The fact that only 2 died, that's not bad at all.
It's a miracle.
Damn.
No, but the firefighters had it hard, because they were forced to drill holes through the ice to access water, which refroze around the hose and piper. Attempts were made to deprive the fire of fuel by demolishing surrounding buildings, but at first there was insufficient gunpowder in Manhattan to use as demolishing charges. So that's another one and then another thing during cholera. Cholera.
Yeah, that's what I was
the
looking at. Like,
cholera. What is the cholera epidemic?
Yeah, it says it's an infectious disease caused by a bacterium called Vibrio. It lives in the waters that are somewhat salty and warm. What does it cause? I don't know.
Yo,
So
but
maybe it's
17
just
blocks, man. 17. I mean, think about 17 blocks. You and I were together when 9/11 happened.
yes, we
We were
were
in the city.
right. Yeah, we saw it from where we were at.
And we walked. Holy shit, like we walked. And let's say we got up to like what? To like 14th Street. Maybe we got up to walking
Yeah.
from 45th that we were. So we walked over 20 blocks, but still think about it. 17 blocks and the chaos. Like, I mean, I remember that shit vividly when we walked down Fifth Avenue. We were walking through the middle of the street. And all I kept picturing was, if the rapture of Christ is real, I can imagine this is what it would be like.
It felt so surreal, man.
It was crazy. Like we were walking down Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue is one of the most busiest streets in the world.
Yeah.
We were walking down Fifth Avenue through the middle of the street. It was empty.
Yeah, you know what it felt like? You remember the movie I think it's The Knowing, where everybody like stops in the middle and just everything just stops, and they just start keep killing themselves and shit. That's what it felt like.
But picture Walking Dead. I think it was episode 1 when when he's in the city, and I think it's Atlanta or whatever it is. But like he's on the horse before he discovers the herd of zombies. That he's just going down with the horse down the street, and everything is just empty and abandoned.
Yeah,
that's what it was like. It was insane.
No, that shit was creepy, yo.
Yep,
it was freaking scary.
All right, so let's jump now to Chicago.
Yeah, that one's like really, really known because they use it in a lot of puns. They use it in a lot of shows and whatnot.
Yeah, Chicago, the Great Fire of Chicago was
I think there's actually an episode of Simpsons where they say that I think it was a squirrel that caused it.
Really?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. I know there's an episode where they talk about it, and they were just ragging on it. Some animal caused it.
All right, so who's gonna read it?
And the caption says, "A view of downtown Chicago in the aftermath of the Great Chicago Fire, October 1871."
Yeah, freaking demolished. That reminds me of the Bronx back when in the 80s, when there were abandoned buildings and all you see is like empty lots and whatnot.
Yeah, I tell my wife that all the time. I was like, "You see this? Like where our other brother lives?" I'm like, back then, this was like a shithole. Like it was. Buildings were burned down. Buildings were empty, boarded up.
That's crazy.
Now I think about it, I was like, damn, I wish I would have been an adult by that time. Probably could have bought a building for cheap.
Yep.
That shit was worth millions. Oh, God.
Well, it says the Great Chicago Fire lasted from October 8th to October 10th, 1871. It left 300 people dead and over 90,000 homeless. A third of the city was destroyed. Since Chicago was at the center of the nation's telegraphic network, which was recently linked to Europe, the Great Fire was the first instantaneous international news event, says Carl S. Smith, author of Chicago's Great Fire, the destruction and resurrection of an iconic American city. Excuse me. The great rebuilding that occurred in the fire's wake transformed Chicago and made it a new, powerful hub for business. Over $10 million was donated to the community. This was soon accompanied by a great deal of capital investment, says Smith. Since Chicago's crucial position between the natural resources of the American hinterland and the consumer appetites for grain, meat, and a wide range of other commodities and goods of the East and Europe made its rebuilding a high priority and a sound investment for investors. The fire became critical to the image of Chicago as the embodiment of the irresistible force of modernity in America. It became like their trademark.
Yeah,
Basically.
like, when you talk about fires, that's the one that usually pops up. That's why it surprised me when I was researching through it and New York came up. There's two of them. Well, I consider three of them because I consider the 9/11 one like a big ass fire one,
Yeah. Sort
even
of.
though it was more like an attempt. Well, not an attempt. It was a suicide bombing or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
That's what
Attack.
they say.
Yeah. That even though there's also conspiracy saying that it was blown from the inside, and even though there's supposedly they debunked it.
Yeah.
Suppose. But I guess
Yeah.
they took this opportunity to rebuild everything and start from scratch and build
No, but this
newer
one,
things.
But that's
and
why
this
it
one,
makes
this,
me so sad. Like I don't know much about Chicago. I've never been there. I know Charles, right? Your family's from there.
yeah,
Yeah, I
you
have
should go.
family in Chicago.
I've never been to Chicago, but it makes me sad when I see like anytime you hear news about Chicago is about like how crazy the crime is, how bad
Yeah.
it is. Like it's sad to me that a city that went through this and they rebuilt it and now it's, I don't know, like
Shitty.
I mean, it's
Like,
just
like
the situation is shitty and it sucks because I feel like nothing is really being done.
Nope.
feels like a Western movie.
Yeah, like it's like this is Chicago, like it shouldn't be that way. I don't know. It's just yeah. And I see New York is going down the same path.
So that means, let's say, how much is 1 acre, give and take?
I don't know what I mean in feet.
Well, no, not per se. Let's try to see if we can convert it like into blocks.
How many okay, so let's check. Wait, how many blocks are in
1 acre.
I mean, what it's giving is based on New York, though. It says city blocks range in size from 2 to 5 acres.
So, then how much would be 2,100 acres?
Oh shit!
That's how much was destroyed.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's so
And
shit.
the
No
thing
wonder.
is, they had to employ just under 200 firefighters.
2,000, how many acres?
2,100 acres of the city.
How many blocks is 200 and what acres?
2,100.
That's basically the size of like a huge park. Like
Well,
if
that's
you look at
Like a baseball park.
no, hell no, way more
no,
than that.
muchacho.
Like so let's say if we look here in New York, if we look at like Pelham Park, I think it's the biggest park in New York.
Pelham Park or at the Central Park.
No, Central Park is one of the smallest actually.
Oh,
See, so Pelham Bay has 3,000 acres.
so just a little bit under that.
Yeah. So let's
Dang.
see is how many acres.
That's a lot.
Van Cortlandt. Van Cortlandt is also one of the big ones too. Van Cortlandt is the one that I have close by. When you get the Van Cortlandt Park has more than 1,000 acres. So yeah, let's say like Pelham that goes all the way to like Orchard Beach. It's 3,000 acres. That's a lot of land.
Yes, it is. No, but and what's using just under 200 firefighters to try to put that shit out? 17 horses with those pumps.
Damn, 200 firefighters. That's it. I think they have
That's
more
it,
than
Bobby.
that.
That's it.
In the World
That's
Trade Center, they
it.
have more than that.
Yeah. No, but they lucked out. They lucked out. You know how they got it off? A miracle happened. They had rain.
The luck.
Yeah, that was huge luck. And the reason why is because there was a big ass drought. So everything was freaking dry.
See, in 9/11 alone, right? In the World Trade Center, guess how many firefighters they had there?
How many?
Take a guess.
1,000?
Nope, more than that. 8,600 firefighters.
Holy shit.
Oh.
That's a lot. Yeah, but I'm guessing that's not from New York alone. That's like around.
Things that are virtually more. It says virtually all of the more than 8,600 firefighters from New York, FDNY, responded to those attacks. So if it says more, that means that the more over 8,600 were from other places.
Yeah.
So you can estimate at least like 10,000 easily
10,000 firefighters, not including the
not the EMS,
NYPD.
NYPD, it's just firefighters. Wow.
They couldn't do much with it.
What do you mean?
What I mean, no, like they couldn't do much because the fire was up high. So it's not like they could have doused it with water.
Yeah, well, but the firefighters here, they respond to emergencies.
True.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like a fire. Like when they have an accident, or even sometimes when there's like, crime or some shit.
No, yeah, I've seen it
911. Yeah, even the firefighters show up.
Yeah, I've had it happen. I've called like 911 for an ambulance, and the first people to come here is like the fire department.
Yeah.
Then the ambulance comes from behind.
All right. So the next one is, what is this? The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. That's a tongue twister.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. That's here in New York.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Right,
it's here in New York. They don't have no caption. They don't have a picture, period. It says here, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire on March 25th, 1911, killed 146 employees of the Triangle Waste Company who were trapped in the Osh building in New York City's Greenwich Village.
Many you're going to read a Greenwich.
Huh? No, I know it's not read that way. Greenwich. That's one hell of it. Can fly, man. Many leaped to their death in twos and threes, or perished in droves by locked exits. O sea, they were killers, even though it was back then. Everybody who jumped was killed, obviously. No. It was a horrifying spectacle, said eyewitness Francis Perkins. Most of the victims were young women and immigrants, many of whom had come to the United States in hopes of a better life. Nope.
That's
not
must
happening.
Be horrifying.
The fire united organized labor, and public outcry over the incident pressured the national government to take action to protect workers, leading to new workplace safety laws. Perkins was so outraged that she devoted her life to defending workers' rights. She went on to help set up the Factory Investigating Commission and eventually became Franklin D. Roosevelt's Secretary of Labor during the New Deal, transforming the land of work in America. See, they only give a little bit there. There were 600 workers at that factory when the fire began in a rag bin. So I don't get it. How is it going to start in a rag bin? Somebody was smoking, electrical failure.
Yeah.
Well, but it was what
una fábrica. Yeah.
Like
yeah, it was a factory.
And it was on 1911, so probably
and everybody smoked. Everybody smoked, and everybody smoked inside.
Yep. No, but you know what's the sad part? They were really. I'm not sure if it was here. It was in the other one. I know it was this one. They had so much freaking bad luck, yo, that the firefighters, when it started, the manager tried to turn it off with the fire hose that they have inside. But the fire hose was in vain because the hose was rotted and it was a valve that was rusted shut. Not only that, the firemen who went to try to save them, they had a ladder, right, to help out people out the windows. The ladder would only reach up to the 7th floor. The fire started on the 8th.
Jeez.
Talking about down on your luck.
Oh my.
Wow. So that factory was man, these people were scumbags then. Like it's like they gave two shits.
Sweatshop.
About
But-
they gave two shits about their employees. Like
They didn't
you had
care.
locked exits and I know, like, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, like when you were in school, you had your main entrance, you had your main exit,
Mm-hmm.
and all the other exits were locked with chains. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, back when.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
No, of course not. Obviously, now with all this bullshit that's gone on, all these fires, especially all these attacks,
Shootings.
massive shootings, right?
Yeah, man. But yeah, I think that the thing that most impacted me about this was like people jumping to their deaths and
Yes.
going back to 9/11.
No,
I
that's
think
not.
that was one of the most traumatic things for me personally, was picturing people making the decision of, all right,
Jumping.
this is what I gotta do. I gotta jump. I think I remember like that shit impacted me. I'm not a type of person who uses the whole trauma word easily or none of that, but I do remember when that happened, it was one of the most traumatizing things for me, was picturing that, like thinking like, holy shit.
Yeah, when they showed it on the
Yeah.
TV, that shit bugged me out.
When you see the videos of people just jumping, and when you see like even the documentaries, when you watch them, and you hear that they're interviewing people or people talking outside, and you hear the banging sound,
Mhm.
and it's actually people jumping, and the impact over like the roofs that were nearby, you can hear the impact. Like, yeah, man.
It's like in this fire when they jumped out of the window, it also messed with the firefighters because they would land on the hose and the water wouldn't go through.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Like I said, talking about down on your luck.
Yeah, man.
Jeez.
That
That
was
shit's
bad, yo.
oof.
You being in, God forbid, that you be in a situation, but you being in a situation like that, would you jump or would you try to just figure out a way just to either run through the fire or something? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I again, back to 9/11, I thought about that a lot. Like it's something I actually did think of. I mean, two things really impacted me. The thought of imagining, holy shit, like you got kids and whatnot, and you're thinking about your family. You're never gonna see them again if you don't make it out of this. So,
Mhm.
and I mean, I don't want to get on a serious note here, but it's is the reality of this is what I thought about, and thinking of, I can try to figure out, I can try to fight through this, even if it's an impossible thing to do. And it's easier to say, yeah, you know what, I would have died fighting. But in a moment like that, I don't know, man. Just the
No,
fact
it's hard to
that
think.
if you throw yourself, you jump, especially here, it was what, 2 or 3 floors.
Right.
But
They were jumping out of like the 8th floor, and I don't know if it was even higher.
that if you jump, you're like, well, maybe. I mean, I've heard of people jump from a 6th floor building and make it. So I don't know, man. But when you talk about like World Trade Center, if you jump from like the 80th floor,
Yeah, you're not.
you're not
Even
making.
though you probably die midway.
That's what they
Yep.
say, man. But I don't know if that's 100% true.
Well, true.
I mean, it's comforting to think about. Like,
I know
hey,
I
I
probably
jump
would.
in midair. You're like, oh, you get a heart attack or some shit. But the truth is, we don't know that. So,
You gotta have to ask someone who survives. Which
I
doubt
thought
you'll
about
never
I
find.
thought about that, and I also thought of. I remember one day I think I was praying, man, because it was very sad, man, the whole situation. And I remember I had like a vision or a thought, right? I thought of people that were in bottom floors when everything started collapsing that
Mhm.
didn't get to make it out. And I remember I think there was some pipe bursts and whatnot. So there was like flooding in the bottom.
Mhm.
And I kept thinking of like, imagine that you survive things start crumbling on you. You're alive, and you end up drowning in like a puddle of water because the weight of something is on top of you, pushing you towards like 6 inches of water.
Yeah, like a bully shoving your head into a freaking toilet.
Like, nah, man, I seriously thought about that a lot. Like, it really broke my heart because I was like, damn, just imagine that. Like, oh,
and not even like drowning in the water. Just by the fact that just by the fact that you're allá abajo on the first floor y tienes como 80 pisos encima de ti, ¿me entiendes?
No, that's enough.
And you're there and you're trying to survive y tienes, all that rubble encima de ti, like, de aquí a que saquen todo eso, like, and you're just there.
I would freak out.
Es bien desesperante.
Te digo, I've gotten to the point where I'm afraid of heights, so I know I ain't gonna jump. And just the feeling of being claustrophobic, with everything. No, that's also a freaking.
That's what I'm saying. It's easy to speculate and be like, oh, I would do this or I would do that. But the truth is, I don't know.
Just like in horror movies.
Yeah.
¿Cuántas veces you see in horror movies? Oh, I would have done this, but why did they go that way? They should have done this. But when you're in that panic, you're not thinking, and you don't know what you're gonna do. You don't know what you're gonna say, and
Yeah.
Don't go that way. Yeah, you're yelling at them and shit. Don't go that way.
Don't go that way.
No.
But yeah, you got to put yourself in the situation to know.
I'm telling you, I thought of that shit a lot, just thinking like, damn, what would I have done? Because I'm terrified of heights also. So I don't know that I could be like, again, in my head, I could picture, well, I would try to figure it out. And so the fire's almost reaching me. And then
sometimes you just panic and you just don't move.
Yeah.
True.
But sometimes you get that. Yep. You get that paralyzing feeling and it's just, you do nothing.
Yeah. You do nothing.
No, but it's just the fact of looking down and being able to have the balls to step out. It's me just looking down from a high ass place, and I feel that freaking. I don't even know how to explain that freaking feeling.
It makes me want to carry a parachute everywhere.
Word.
Thing is, if you're down on your luck, that parachute don't work. Oh, it expired.
I wonder, right, if that's something that they've ever considered, like these tall buildings in New York, to have like these, quote unquote, theoretical escape plans. Because the truth is, you can't prove it. Well, you can have one of these, like, what is it, free base jumpers, test it out.
Yeah.
Which they've done, but
they can't just use the squirrel suit.
True, yeah, right? True. But if you don't, you know what? Then everybody on the high floors that's able to use one of those squirrel suits or parachutes, they would have to freaking train for that.
I'm just thinking about, there's a fire and people are running towards, the top of the building because they want to wear the suits and they want to throw themselves off the roof and everything. And everybody goes like,
yeah.
Jump out of the window, you smack the next building down the block.
Or the next person that's trying to jump and everybody's jumping and everybody's butting their butts like their head
into each other. Yeah. I don't know, man, but scary thought anyway.
Yes.
Oh, it is.
So so this has been the different fires, right? That we spoke about, because I can't say they're in America only, because we had one in London, we had New York twice, and we had Chicago. I'm pretty sure there's more. I mean,
there's one in Germany, which is a mouthful to say the name alone.
They have in Cleveland. They have the Reichstag fire.
Right. That's a mouthful.
Reichstag fire. Reichstag in Berlin, Germany. February 28, 1930.
Did you just say the Reichstag?
Yeah, the Reichstag.
Stag.
Huh?
You said the right sag.
No, the Reichstag.
The Reichstag. Reichstag.
Reichstag in Berlin, Germany. Reichstag in Berlin, Germany. Reichstag in Berlin, Germany. Yeah.
And the Great Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, and that was the first one there.
Nah, that's just a bunch of books that burned.
Example, where is that? In Greece.
Yep.
Oh no, wait,
Yeah.
no, was it in Greece? Anyway.
Yeah.
So this has been the fires. If you know of one that we didn't mention, feel free to leave it in the comments. Because I know there's been like tons of fires. Like California suffers like forest fires and shit like that every year.
Fires in the kitchen. Even
There's
if
a-
you throw, even if you go to the bathroom and you leave one of those matches and then you don't put it out well and you throw it like on the toilet paper, like that can cause a fire.
Here in New York, there's constantly like fire. Like during the winter, you see a lot of these like
Yeah, but
fires,
that's
like
due
the
to
space
those little
heaters and
heaters.
stuff. Yeah.
People freaking, they don't pay attention. They put that shit close to something.
I'm afraid of those space heaters. I don't have them here in the house. I am paranoid with those.
Yeah,
No,
God,
I
the power
actually-
surges. The power surges, makes the fires.
I don't know, but yeah, whoever uses a space heater over there in Puerto Rico is an asshole.
But Luma, like Luma, just like
Yeah, but still, whoever uses a space heater in Puerto Rico is an asshole. Who the hell is gonna use a space heater over there?
you'd be surprised.
I feel like for being, I mean, I don't know because obviously I don't follow everywhere, but I feel like PR for being a tropical island that's so hot, you don't see that many fires.
Yeah, because you see it, but it's a controlled fire.
I'm saying you see fires, not that they don't exist, but you don't see them like constantly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Like-
You'll see them constantly, but it's controlled fires. It's the
not like a wildfire.
firefighters, they're causing the fire, so it won't give and take. Let's say Wanaka. You know that Wanaka is a freaking ass dry place.
Desert.
Uh-huh.
The desert.
It's a freaking desert, but it still has trees, leaves, and whatnot. What they do is where it's like super dry, especially on drought season, they'll burn it, controlling, so it won't just poof and
Yeah.
fire started.
Well, tomorrow's officially hurricane season.
Yep. Now you guys start the
It starts in June. No, not. I thought it was July.
June.
June. Yeah, all the way to November.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you guys will be fine this
Now
year.
you guys are gonna be on your tiptoe, just watching out for all these freaking hurricanes.
Yeah, y con la calor que hace. Ugh.
Yeah, I've been reading. It's super hot over there.
Oh, that's
It
freaking
is.
ridiculous, man. It's over here. It's already in here in the house. It's like 83 degrees, and I'm freaking suffocating.
Yeah. All right. So this has been the episode on fires of the Grim Fix podcast. So again, if you are listening to us on podcast platform, first of all, I want to thank you for listening to us this far. If you're
Yes,
watching
sir.
us on YouTube, thank you for watching us this far. So again, please subscribe, share with your friends. Drop us a comment if you have anything to add to the topic. And if you want to be one of the topics of our show and you have an interesting story you want to share with us, please send it to thegrimfixpodcast@gmail.com. So until next week, please be safe. Peace.
I am Cornholio.
Please. Like Cornholio. I have this pint of Ben & Jerry's strawberry shortcake ice cream in the fridge calling my name. It's been